Jukdrin Guezre Shalak Janay Jukdrin Hua Dik and Juk Short and leads a Masicho Norancha. Good day, everyone. We're happy to be here with you. Today we're speaking with Ruth Ridley. Ruth Ridley is from Eagle, and she has a lot of wonderful things to share with us. So, Masicho, good morning, Ruth. Would you like to share maybe an introduction, where you're from and your family?
Shonshrei Ruth Ridley, used to be Ruth Paul. I come from Eagle Tsanchiche. Eagle, j'ai ketrenin that do on organ cham done year school trotse and Shanash cha Eagle Hohujin Hatchan Shne Winnow cha Jadson Shinchash say Soy fish camp Hotse Jachat Lu Hatraho Jachat Kama fish wheel, j'ai 600 fish. Around lunchtime, j'ai 600 fish. And to 6 o'clock, j'ai 600. Say Jean Trinja and Jay in Knee Village on here through it tratit plant through plant only. It's on Atlan A G fair Thor Hellasra Hote A Camp Woodchopper Shinchap Nietzsche head Natritic Drinking jam j'ai training soul eating and David family and Junabi Age Ranch Jeju and Jethik non-play Hindley and j'ai high jet Trahujin Atlan Drinke Shache in school Hatat say 800 eagles not trichio j'ai thick school hot says hot hey ni hit you jitri here non clear getri here hit 3 day call so age ran
See, I could hear some of the Han language. It's very close to Gwich'in, right? Mm-hmm. Some of it's almost identical. But growing up in Eagle, also out in Woodchopper and Coal Creek, and this would have been the 1950s, right?
Yep.
And
I was born in 1950, so it was in the 60s.
oh yeah,
Like, I think we left that mining camp when I was 58.
So you left there to go to school in Eagle, is that right? Or
Yeah. And we didn't go to school till we were 6 years old. And we had all different kind of teachers. And when we didn't have a teacher, the preacher even became our teacher. And there was an old lady that was my mom and dad's teacher when they were young. She lived in Eagle, so they just put her in charge in the school because there was no teachers, because it was 60 below, 70. And sometimes it's too cold for those teachers, I think.
so you were brought up with how many siblings? You have older sisters?
I have 3 older sisters and 1 brother, 2 brothers, but 1 brother died and 1 sister died when way before I was born, I think. And the rest, and then my older sister passed away, so there's only 2 sisters left now, and me. And I'm the baby, so at 71, I'm still the baby.
It was just your birthday the other day too, right? Happy birthday. Mm-hmm. How would you say happy birthday in Han?
Children, inidad, show inli.
So you learned Han language from your siblings and your parents? And
And then so Gwich'in here Nini thought she was 140 or 30 years old, and she never spoke English. She say hi, bye, maybe, but she spoke in Gwich'in, so when we talked to her in Han, and then she repeat back in Gwich'in, so we learn how to understand, like you talking Gwich'in.
so you understand when you hear people talking Gwich'in?
They don't think I do, but I sneak around and listen, eavesdrop.
But yeah, both your grandparents, right? Both your maternal, paternal grandparents were Gwich'in. So
Yep.
hearing that language.
Yeah, they were from Canada somewhere, but then I had my other grandparents, my dad's mom and dad, they came from Old Crow. But we have a lot of relatives in Canada because they were all in Canada, and then my grandpa said, we're going to move to Eagle because they say education is better on American side than Canadian side. So that's how they moved to Eagle.
And Woodchopper and Coal Creek are downriver.
Yep, it's like 20 minutes flying time.
Those were part of the gold mining, is that right?
Yeah, they were mining for gold, and Woodchopper was farther in, and Coal Creek was probably 2 or 3 miles from the river. And when the gold was going full blast in the 50s or 60 or something, they even had those 2 camps going at the same time.
Oh, that's just above Circle. Like the next village might be Circle when you're going down river.
Yeah.
Did you also go upriver, up to Dawson? And
Oh, yeah. We have my grandma's relatives come from Mayo. And so we have relatives up there, and then we go up to Dawson and work with them, with their language, because they're Han like us, but they speak kind of like Gwich'in plus Han mixed up.
oh, yeah, that happens. People speak. It's almost like each family has a little different way of talking sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So some of your relatives over on Canadian side might be like the Josies. Is that right? Edith Josie, and is she?
Yeah, that's my aunt.
She had the "Here Are the News," that article she wrote to the White Horse newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of wonderful stories. So growing up, you were learning to speak Han and also understand Gwich'in. And then many years, when did you start working at the Alaska Native Language Center with Dr. Michael Krause? And
I started working there in 1970, because that's when they finally got orthography for Han Athabascan, and before that, all the other languages were already written and all that. And I said, they must save the best for last. And so I told them I would like to learn how to read and write Han Athabascan. And so Michael Krause work with me, and then when John Ritter comes over from Canada, we all work together, and they had a lot of stories and all that in Han, and so I was able to translate for them all the Han words into English for them, and go to different language deals, like to Albuquerque and California, and trying to learn more of that.
yeah, I've been really enjoying working with you over the last several years. We've done some language lessons that are going to be shared online. They're very close to being published. It'll be available for learners who want to use their computer to access some language lessons. But you've also done other types of teaching materials and even children's books.
Oh, yeah.
So would you like to share some about the children's books that you've been working on?
There's that lady, she's our Episcopal preacher, and she goes around the village and teach violin and guitar, and so she got me to go with her plus her son, and then I put some Native words into songs that they learn how to sing. And
that's Reverend Belle Mickelson.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been doing Dancing with the Spirit.
Mm-hmm. And so we do that, and then while I'm in Eagle, I go to the classrooms and interview or talk about language and talk to the kids and write little funny stories and read it to the kids, and then they copy it. And there was a little boy, he was 2 years old, and he just sat down and started reading Han just like he knew it all the years. That's how, because I wanted them to write it the way it really sound, not like some other languages got two R or stuff like that. So that little boy really knew how to read. So that improved the language. And we're trying to do more with the village too. They're getting grants now for language, so we're going to do more things like that.
For the children's books, where did you get ideas for stories? Was it from stories you heard growing up, or are they original stories, or how would you describe them?
My imagination goes haywire or go on, and I try to find good words that that you could write good, that could be pronounced, so that the stories will teach you some different words in Han.
Yeah, I've read a couple of the books and I really enjoy them. They definitely have a sense of humor involved, just like yourself, and it's definitely your voice in the books. So I really enjoy those.
Oh yeah.
The last several years, you've been working with Doyon Languages Online. We've been creating some lessons, and those should be published soon. And we're hoping to include a story that was in your mother's voice. She recorded with John Ritter in 1978. She recorded a story when you were just a baby, and it involved a bear breaking into the cabin. And
oh yeah. But I was too small. It was just a cute little baby that didn't cry. If I cried, I think that big grizzly would come charging in the window. But they had one of those big trucks with that fence around it. That grizzly was taller than that.
Oh my.
That's how big that grizzly was.
So you and your family, you may not remember since you were a baby, but all your family was in this small cabin, and the bear stuck its head through the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we were about a mile from the camp, I think, and after that grizzly went across the little footbridge and went down through the camp, then my dad followed it to wake up the men down there, and they said they could just hear that big grizzly because the mountains are so close down there, and you could just hear it echoing, the growling, and I don't know how many shots it took of 300 Magnum or something.
Yeah.
Until they finally killed it, and my mom said her and my sister were holding a chair and a box to keep it from coming in, but it just knocked the flashlight off my dad's hand. Good thing it didn't hit his hand. But some of them, my sisters, they were still sleeping in all the commotion.
Oh boy. Very sound sleeper.
Yeah.
Even a growling bear can't wake you up.
And I was just drinking my bottle good, so I didn't cry or anything.
A lot of good stories growing up, and glad you survived. Earlier in your introduction, I heard you were talking about all the fish that would come up the Yukon and how busy people would be cutting up the fish, and you mentioned 600 fish a day. Was that?
That's 600 in the morning at 6 o'clock, 600 at noon, 600 at 6 o'clock at night.
Oh, boy.
It was fish. My dad, my grandma and grandpa's tent was like half of this room, and they even had upstairs and fish downstairs. When the fish gets almost dry, then they move it up. That way it don't get too dry. You know, sometimes you taste fish that's too dry and doesn't even have the grease in it. Mm-hmm. And I was probably 8 years old, and while they got like 4 fish tables cutting fish, and I have my little frying pan on the heater and go around and collect all the fish hearts and put a little grease in it and fry my little fish hearts. Uh-huh. I was a little cook at 8.
I'm sure all the villages now, we miss those days when there was so much fish.
Oh, yeah, so much fish. And when all those people come to help my grandpa cut fish and stuff, and when they go home, he sends fish, dry fish home with them. And then the salmon, the eating one, and then we all have dog teams those days, so then we had to get, he had to fish for dog salmon for the dogs. Sometimes those poor dogs in that fish camp just get so tired of fish, maybe too much fish, and their pots just have all that what do they call that? Fish eggs. They can't even finish their food. That's too much fish, I guess.
Be good to have that problem nowadays. 'Cause
I
there's
know.
hardly any fish.
And those times, everybody has a cache in the village, and it's just full of fish. Like there's some wooden things to drape over for salmon strip that's dry, and then that dog salmon and backbone and all that other kind of eating fish were just piles of it. Who would have thought that we'd ever get to this point where we don't have any fish or nothing in the cache?
Yeah. So you and I have made trips over to Whitehorse a couple times. We went driving in December, I think it was, and made it all the way to Whitehorse. I think you were part of the Gwich'en group, too, that traveled over there one time. We were all in a van, and Florence Newman and Irene Roberts, who else? Traveling over there to work with the Yukon Native Language Center and working with reading and writing the language. And then we stayed and continued working on some of the lessons. And so you have children, grandchildren, and have you spent time teaching the language as well to the young people? And
oh, yeah. The grandchildren, they know how to say hi and I'm hungry and all that, and thank you, Masi, you know. And then now that the books are coming out, they really read good. But it would be good if we had a disc that go along with the language lessons.
Like an audio recording disc. Yeah. It helps to have that. You could read the language, but to hear it is a different, like listening and speaking the language are kind of a different part of the brain than reading and writing. Reading and writing is a visual thing and patterns. And
I know I told people nowadays people get educated to go teach language. I said, my mom and dad and my old grandma, they didn't have no teaching lessons, but they sure taught us how to talk right and talk good.
Yeah. They were blessed to have the language still and be able to hear it and learn it as their first language. So
and I think being in that mining camp, it kind of helped us to be away from people like in Eagle. Some of the people that stayed there, they didn't learn as much of the language as we did living in that mining camp by ourselves. Because when my dad and Willie Junby and Harry David get together, they just talk in Han. They don't talk in English and stuff, and they didn't do that when we're in the village. I could remember way back to when they have a council meeting, it was all in Han. They didn't talk English at all. Mm-hmm. And the women just stood aside and the men did all the deciding stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you have recordings of your father, and there's some of your mother, right? She worked with the language as well.
Yeah, and I think my dad he worked a little bit with Mike Krause long time ago. Mm-hmm. But I never did find his recording or anything.
Yeah, it's really wonderful work, and I'm very happy that all these years, almost 50 years now, it is over 50 years, 1970, working with the language and all the wonderful things you've been able to do with, first of all, learning to read and write the language and help develop the writing system, and then to put that into use with teaching and also writing books. And what else do you think you would like to do going forward?
I would like to see some little kids get together and just yak away in Han, and they totally understand each other, what the other person, how are you doing? I'm fine, like that, and just talk away, because they love it when we go to Eagle, and my sister Ethel and my sister Bertha and I, we start talking in Han and not English. They just love listening to that.
Well, we appreciate everything you do, and it's very precious, and it's a treasure for future generations. And Masit Chonai Chani Thanza, Quincy Atak Auntie. Thank you very much for all of the work, and
oh yes,
we hope to keep the work going. So Masit Cho. Quincy Atak Oti, take care, everyone.
Yeah. Ka ho that re ni ka no che.